today's webinar is titled Empowering the Future, Navigating Successes Through Guidance and Counseling in Schools. And the reading source, as mentioned previously as well, is the NCF for School Education. So when we talk about guidance and counseling, one may think, why is there so much impetus or so much importance given to this particular theme? And an entire separate section has been made for it. Even though we are talking about the NCF in all of our episodes, I thought it would be vital for us to also place the NEP here, right? So throughout the NEP, we are able to locate the fact that care is a central factor to learning. So that is the premise on which the NCF has drawn inspiration from the NEP when it was, when it has written down the suggestions and the approach that one has to use for guidance and counseling. So one may think, how how is care demonstrated? How do we know if, an environment is, taking this up? So care is demonstrated by attention to a few things. The first one is content. So again, moving away from the idea that, content is something that is very substandard, very subjective, but the way we create content for our students demonstrates the fact or sort of gives us an understanding as to how much we care about those with whom we share the class. The second is pedagogy. Of course, it goes without saying, the teaching and learning processes, the teaching and learning methods, the way in which these things are done demonstrate care. Next, it is structure. So structure, not just in the macro sense of a school, but also structures in the classroom, right? How are we organizing our classroom? How are the classrooms divided? Is there some sort of discrimination within students? Are the dynamics at power? And so on and so forth. Then the processes used in teaching and learning. How this is different from pedagogy is that pedagogy specifically, focuses on the academic aspect here. However, we have time and again mentioned and acknowledged the fact that teaching and learning is much more. So what are the other processes that the teacher and the student share while one shares the space in the classroom? Moving ahead, the question is, how do we place it? How do we understand this whole idea of care as central to learning? First one is how teachers and students interact. Moving on to the construction of tasks. How am I constructing the task? So tasks, again, don't just focus on the narrow understanding of assessment, but everyday classroom interactions, everyday classroom loops. How are they constructed? Next, the physical accessibility to resources. And again, when we say resources, we're not just talking about books or academic resources, but all kinds of resources that one has the right to in school, keeping in mind the RTE. The organization of the timetable, again, a very, very important factor, and probably one of the forthcoming sessions as well, that we will definitely do a session on the timetable, how timetables are organized. The way a timetable is organized in a school tells us as to what the school places as primary, what the school places as secondary, and what the school thinks that is okay to let go. And lastly, the distribution of duties. So these 5 things are, in a way, a checklist as to, if one has to assess as to, what are some of the areas through which we can inculcate this care that we're talking about. The 5 things listed here may help you out. So moving on to the primary topic of today, that is guidance and counseling. Of course, I think all of us have a rough understanding of what guidance is, and I will not take a lot of time to reiterate that, but just for the purpose of staying on the same page, the definition that is given in the document is that guidance focuses on assisting individuals to individuals to empowering themselves. So what does this, it's a confusing term, no? Individuals to individuals. The first idea of guidance, or the first primary principle, is that we try to look at it from a peer-to-peer perspective. However, moving ahead, it is finding direction to make one's own decision. So guidance, again, so it's very, very important to differentiate between instruction and guidance, right? And lastly, this dynamic always involves a trustful relationship. Moving ahead, when we come to counseling, there are some, sort of not definitions, but some ways in which the document defines this particular term is that the individuals consulting another for advice. And there, the primary difference between these two is that there's a change seeking aspect that takes precedence in counseling. And lastly, uh, maybe not always, but as per the understanding of the text that we are referring to, skillful and well trained individuals are required for the latter. So this is a very, very generic understanding of what guidance and counseling is. And my hope is that as we move ahead with today's episode, we will be able to, have a better, for lack of a better word, a definition or a better understanding of what these terms means through our panelists. So before I end it, this is the last part that I have as part of this presentation. That is the approach to guidance and counseling that has been suggested by the NCF. The first is the health and well-being of the members. So I think it is very vital for us to see that how we have not just we haven't written health and well-being of students, right? So the second we're thinking about guidance and counseling in schools, we are not just focusing on the people or the numerical aggregate of the students, but all the members of the school community is that takes precedence. So there are four little points here. That is, the physical health, of course, comes into consideration. Factors such as social cohesion, how cohesive are our schools, cognitive health and growth, and learning needs and disability. Next up, the second approach that the document suggests is academic and career counseling, which is quite self-explanatory, and also something that we have practiced in the past as well, where we use this as a method, as an instrument to counsel students as to what the employability opportunities, spread awareness, and other implications that come with progressing within the school. And lastly, administrative and systemic support. So as a research scholar myself, this is the first time that I have seen, the inclusion of administration and systemic support within this entire gambit of guidance and counseling. Like, we often tend to divide schools or school structures into islands, right? Where we think that, okay, this particular aspect is for this cadre, or this particular aspect is for this particular group. But here, the fresh approach to guidance and counseling also takes into account the administration and the systemic support that a school has. Because I think time and again we have discussed the fact that teachers alone, or students alone, or principals alone, it's very difficult to make colossal changes. So, the views, the opinions, the insights, and the challenges, that is faced by the administration and systemic support is also taken into consideration. And this is the last slide. That is, what are some of the expected outcomes that the document hopes for teachers of today, or the educational practitioners of today, to, bring through this? The first one is to inculcate positive learning habits. Moving on to meaningful communication and support. The administrative policies and practices be in tune with students' dispositions, and adequate support from the learning community. So I think one common thing that, a common denominator that we have through all this is the fact that the approach to guidance and counseling that is taken in the current document has moved away from that one little room in a school, where, because there's a lot of other emotions attached to somebody being counseled or somebody being guided as well. If we can all recall our own school times or experiences, what how is a child being perceived when he or she is taken to the counselor's room, or is called out in a classroom, that, okay, you've been called by the counselor. So this so we are taking a colossal leap, a colossal jump as to how we understand this entire gambit. So I think we can jump right to the discussion, and, without wasting much time. And to start with, Bala sir, I will start with you. If you could just give, of course, there was a whole didactic presented, and we all have an understanding as to what these terms are. But sir, as a very experienced educational professional yourself, what do you think are the key objectives and goals of a guidance and counseling programs? in preparing students for their future?
Well, thank you, Lavanya. The concept of guidance and counseling is not a demand of 2023. It has been in existence since probably last 100 years over there. But the dynamics, the objectives, and the operatives for guidance and counseling have been changing from time to time, depending upon the social dynamics and the impact of the social dynamics on the family, learning, and also the school environment. To add a little fuel to the fire, we had technology walking into and reshaping and re-engineering the way the children learn, the pedagogy happens, and all that. Alongside, there has been a change in the emotional content of the individuals, both as individuals as well as in a social context for the society, which has really ushered in what I call normally as the emotional consumerism as compared to the material consumerism, right? So all these things are putting pressure on cognitive, emotional, as well as the sociological well-being of the learner, right? And though I remember right in mid-80s, I started certain programs using psychologists for the students across the country, including counseling for the examinations, pre-examination, and later. So many things we put across. The problem has only been surmounting and increasing day in and day out. Therefore, in 2023, when you look at the National Curricular Framework, I'm very happy that the first two sentences, which in the pre-primary document itself, they said is about self-learning and self-directed learning. If you really walk into that statement and analyze, that summarizes the need for the counseling, because finally, as you put across in your didactic, building up the profile of the learner, the self-confidence of the learner, the self-awareness of the learner, his ability to, engage with problem solving, his ability to handle the crisis, right? Crisis need not be social crisis, it could be an academic crisis also, right? So to create that kind of, emotional balance is very important. I won't take much time, but to say that if you go in the early texts of India, right, like Vivek Chudamani and all that, they said the objective of all educational prajna, right? What does it mean? It really meant a person who was, who was stable in his consciousness, right? Sita Prajna, who resides in his consciousness, or in other words, we call it in a modern term, learning to be. So once you know that who you are and what you are, I think the learning to be and learning to get together, as given in the Della's report, combined together to define the purpose, the objective, and the increasing need of guidance and counseling in schools.
Right. Right. Nivedita, madam, I will come to you with my next question. So if could you just share as to what are the changes, what are the big changes that you have seen within the school ecosystem with the students in this domain? Like, because we do say that the approach that we take in today is much more, it is with running with today's time. So then does that mean that what was happening previously was conventional, or did it not work? So could you just take us through your, opinion on this? So, yeah.
So, right now, I'm going to share what I have done. Actually, we have scientifically done. I'm working with the Educom, and I'm there from last 15 years. So what Sir Bala sir has said, we are already doing, we have done in a scientific manner. Initially, yes, it was a challenging because something new we have started with. So a lot of things has to be done. Might be after 2 years, everything has been phrased. And what we do initially, like beginning of the year, say April month, we leave the teachers to be with the children. When they are able to know their children, then I have developed a format which goes to each and every teacher, all the class teachers and the subject teachers. So where they have to fill in each and everything. That includes We have divided 5 parts for being teachers to give it a lot of domains. It will be difficult for them. So what we have done is social communication, language, motor, and academics. Each and everything has been family background. Each and everything is being filled by the teachers and the subject teachers. Separate formats are there. Then we file them. Then we figure out, as Bala sir said, that it's not about the academics. We have to figure out, so many children have emotional issues also, so many had other issues also, family background issues also. So we segregate, and we have neurotic and psychotic cases also. So first we segregate them. Neurotic and psychotic cases needs to be taken care in a different manner, and those children who are having social, emotional, or other family issues needs to be taken care of in other manner. So we figure out, first we segregate them. After doing all this, after filing, I figure out the cases, and I speak to the teachers, go for the observations, then we segregate them. Emotional, yes, we have to guide the teachers, we have to guide the coordinators, call the parents, and we hand over, and yes, we look into the case. Neurotic cases, we have to refer them. Yes, referral service, each and everything cannot be done in the school. Each and everybody is not perfect in each and
Sure.
everything. So we should have a lot of
Sure,
referral
but
services
I have
also.
one doubt
So
here, ma'am. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's very important for me to clarify, right, because of the people who are listening to us, right? Like, were these interventions made from your end, or was it
yes.
the classroom teacher coming to you with
No, it
the
has
trouble?
been initially beginning 2 years, each and every teacher was coming at any point of a time. So I realized it was very challenging, and the precious time of the child is being wasted. So initially 2 years, it was very random thing, kind of a thing. But after 2 years, I have developed the format,
Hmm.
and it goes from my end to each and every one. And so they have to fill up the format. So in the month of July, because they send me all these details till the 15th of May, and I start working for each and everything. So beginning of the July, we are aware of those children who needs psychotic, or those are the cases of psychotic, neurotic. Somebody has a environmental issue, somebody has emotional or family issues. So we know them and we segregate them, and the intervention, behavioral issues also. Behavioral issues, so many factors are there. So we have to figure out the factors also why the behavioral problems are coming up. So we have a separate program for them. uh, some children are
Sure,
being taken care by the teachers only, because each and everywhere I cannot reach out.
sure,
It's a
sure,
chain of
sure.
schools. So we guide the teachers, we keep on monitoring the
Right,
process.
right.
And psychotic and neurotic cases, we definitely, and yes, a lot of challenges are there. Parent doesn't accept.
Hmm.
They defend themselves, they defend the
Sure,
children. It is a difficult till the date. We are
got it.
struggling with this.
Got it, ma'am. But so what I think is that what of course, you gave us a very good overview of the kind of work that you have done and also how you have done it, right? So you said you create a format, but I mean, you ended this by a very pertinent point that it is very difficult for you to be there everywhere,
Yes.
right? And that is the primary challenge that I think a lot of our fellow colleagues and peers would face as teachers as well. So you, of course, are speaking from a perspective of somebody who's in the expert in the area. But this evening, may not particularly. I mean, if I example, I have not been trained in this domain, but that does not mean that I don't want to do whatever I can for if there is a student who may require help. So Megha ma'am, I'll come to you with this. So I have two questions for you primarily. First is as to how I mean, you and I did discuss this via email yesterday as well, that the first thing is how can teachers sort of teachers who may not be trained in psychology and guidance and counseling and other allied subjects, how can these teachers uh, I don't know, at least initiate the process without, maybe having this professional intervention being done? Like, are there some strategies or are there some methods for teachers to even understand if there is something, if there's some sort of alarm that is required? And the second thing is, when we talk about guidance and counseling, it is very difficult for us to ignore the career part with
Yes.
this, or the academic, right? So, two questions. One is, A, how does a regular teacher, like somebody like me who has not been trained in these domains, can help out? And B, how can we include topics around career counseling, not career counseling, but academic choices within our own sessions?
Thank you so much for asking this important question. To answer your first question, I would say, considering the behavioral changes that students have, there's a lot of peer pressure also going on. There's a lot of social media buzz that's been created where the students are being subject to, that's what like cyberbullying and all stuff.
Sure.
So there's a lot of emotional trauma that also the students are going through, which wasn't the case in the past, I would say. So that's one of the things where definitely teacher intervention is something which is very crucial, because on day-to-day basis, teachers are the one who get to interact with them and not counselors. So counselors can definitely monitor in terms of how Nivedita ma'am also mentioned that we do need support of teachers on a regular basis, and then we can of course intervene when it's time to talk about how the progress has been and if they have felt any change in terms of the behavioral issues. Whereas certain things like autism or talking about any learning disability that the child is having, we often suggest them to take learning style inventory tests and certain other psychometric assessments, which can help them go ahead and really understand as to why a student is particularly distracted. So a lot of times, in general, also we see that the attention span is just about 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Following that, it's up to the student how much the person is being engaged in the class. There would be certain students would require a lot of experimental activities, hands-on experience. However, the others might not have that same learning
Right.
style. So it's best to have that in mind and for teachers to understand what is the kind of learning style for the student to actually perform better in their academics too.
Sure.
So that's one thing. Coming to your second question, which is in reference to your academics and how can they support in their career guidance. So I believe project-based learning has really helped a lot. This really helps students delve into the topic of their interest. They can actually, join a project. They can create something of their own. I've seen a lot of students creating drones these days because that's something that they have been really, really driven by how it operates, and it also helps them build their collaboration skills, because there are students who might just know the back end, how will
Correct.
it operate. Some are good with the mechanics of it. Some are very good with the designing and thinking of the concept of how it should be designed. So it's a great experience. This is just one of the examples, but I believe teachers can definitely, probe them and come up with those kind of assignments where they get to engage in hands-on experience with projects, and eventually they will find out, what is the kind
Right.
of project they really enjoy doing.
Right.
Some of the other things is like planning a career walk in school. So like again, in school we have so many departments like human resources, accounts, administration, front desk, IT, design team, there's media team. It's important for students to also look at how these departments can be actually seen as career. I'm not very sure if students have been visiting these departments in school,
Correct.
but it's important that they actually start, because this is how they'll be able to actually learn about more career options.
Right. Right.
And then comes very generic ones, which is like field trips and case studies, stuff that I
Sure.
believe all teachers have been actually incorporating in
Have
their
been
life.
doing. Right. And not to discount field trips or these things at all. I think they're excellent tools to do it. But uh, you know, the times are changing, right? Like I also sometimes do experience it that, if I want to make a class fun or innovative, I mean, I teach social sciences and I'm like, okay, we can take a field trip, or I don't even see a lot of excitement with kids because they're like, इतना बार कर लिया, फिर से अब for them it's like
Definitely.
चलो ठीक है कम से कम class में नहीं. So I think as teachers it is time. And Megha, when I was listening to you, because I so every time I listen to any of the panelists, a constant thought in my head is, okay, how can I implement it, about what can I do, right? That's the way at least I think for this 1 hour. And when I was listening to you about giving projects, I think what also sort of a reflection that came to me was, let's just say I gave multiple projects for whatever subject one is teaching, right? It depends on your own discipline. And I am the person who's assessing it, or I'm the person who's going through the process of it and identifying what works for what, and then maybe even collaborating with the school counselor or whoever is taking up this role in the school. And a collaborative venture can also start where the subject teacher or the class teacher can be in collaboration with the counselor of the school, and then
Absolutely.
have like a file. I mean, I don't know, I mean, I'm also thinking very narrow, having a file, but and then help students out. Just one question I had with your comment, your suggestion of the learning inventory is, do the teachers who will be taking these, I mean, taking up these tasks, will they need certain kind of training to read or understand the results that come out of these tests?
Uh, Absolutely. So, usually the test reports are something that counselors really need to discuss, because there are a lot of underlying
Sure,
things, and at times students may not take the test in the best of the time, or maybe there was some disturbance in the background. So those kind of things, I believe, trained counselors would be
yeah,
able to gauge. Because I believe once the reports are done, discussed, and there are certain things, a list of things that we would suggest them to incorporate to improve on the learning
sure,
abilities.
sure,
Those are the kind of things that where teacher intervention would be very important,
important,
because those are the things where they can look at the implementation of those things, whether if they want to tweak their lesson plan, if they want to tweak
correct,
how they want to conduct a particular session,
right,
say if they want if they see like more number of people do not enjoy the teacher only doing the talk, so why not practicing
sure,
a flipped classroom for that matter.
right,
So those are the kind of things that
right.
this would help
Because
them.
what I was thinking is that, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of schools that are associated with us, may just have all these resources, right? Where, or you can at least sort of call for them. But what happens once the inventory comes to my hand? Like, utility is a big factor. Like, just having a piece of
Definitely.
paper or just having like something. I mean, it's the same thing then. I have the resources, but I don't know how to utilize it. Then it becomes, I mean, more or less futile. So, which is why I asked. So, intervention is still required. So this is, I mean, I don't know
Definitely.
how, right? So it's also to all the attendees who are, because I had typed it down, so I thought it's vital that I ask. Even if you're calling for this, we need to have some sort of, maybe not rigorous training, but we can always seek help from people who are trained within this domain to understand, and then of course go ahead. Um, so Tanishka, hi. I know this slightly took longer. I was hoping to come to you much earlier, but the
No,
questions,
it's
I mean,
fine.
otherwise I forget it later, the question. So I so welcome, and I'm very happy to have you here, and I hope that you did sort of listen to everybody else who just spoke. And uh, uh, the question to you is more on peer mentoring, because that's also one thing that keeps coming in the guidance and counseling literature. I mean, of course, I have not done a rigorous study of it like you have, but when I was reading up for the episode, just for my own understanding, I want to, let's just say, as a teacher, my school's counselor, or a friend who's trained, suggests that, okay, there's some issues or some challenges in the class, why don't you try peer mentoring, huh? Or so does that work? Because that is something that teachers can do, because you always have a numerical aggregate of kids. You can pair them up, you can ask them to help each other out. uh, so I want to first start with the question, do you think that works? If yes, how can teachers enhance that experience for students? And if it doesn't work, then why is it there in all the texts that we see? Yeah. So yeah,
Okay, Lavina, first of all, I would like to, bring it to the fact that in order to, manage students and counsel students, the teacher is the first person who comes in contact with them. So first of all, the teacher must be trained enough so
sure.
they can deal with the students. They can be trained enough because they have to protect, they have to give the students an environment that is protected and care. The students first
Hmm.
need to be comfortable in the class. Then only they can share the problems they are facing, right?
Right.
So I would say कि peer guidance and counseling or peer mentoring can work only in control environment, only under the supervision of a trained teacher.
Sure.
We can't just leave students and tell them to talk to each other and solve each other's problems
Problem.
out, because
Yeah.
they also need experienced people. They haven't gained much experience. They are only being in the class under the supervision and guidance of a teacher, or maybe preferred counselor. And these days many big schools or maybe small schools also, they provide a counselor for the sake of providing a counselor. For example, there's a whole school from classes nursery to 12th, but the whole school has only one counselor. That's the major problem, and in that condition teachers aren't even trained.
Correct.
So
And yeah, please go ahead.
either
Sorry.
provide counselors or provide trained teachers, they can, so that they can provide a condition control environment so that the student can be comfortable in their shadows.
Right, right, right. And it is so unfortunate. I mean, you did bring it up about the fact that, schools having only one counselor. I mean, I have over time seen that when, here there's one section. There, I mean, discussions like these is where we talk about individualized attention, where we're talking about how to tailor cater to students' needs, and so on and so forth. And when on the ground, right, we say the practical theory divide, that even if a school has a counselor, how much can he or she take up on their own shoulders? Because these are very these are not checklists that one can just take, right? These are
Yeah,
very informed and very reflective processes that and for those of you who, I mean, I don't know if you were able to remember this from the didactic. There was one sentence, I mean, which I just shortened, about being able to having trust in the relationship.
yeah,
Trust becomes a very important factor when we talk about something like guidance and counseling. So yeah, it is a challenge for sure that our schools, big schools, some small schools maybe, are not being able to provide the necessary resources, let alone the extra,
because the
right?
student teacher ratio is very different and has a very big gap in between.
Sure, sure.
Even us young adults or even adults, like if we are sitting right in front of each other, and if you ask me, I am facing any problems, i would be I would not be able to share it with you at such a little thing. And we are adults,
Sure.
and what happens with children, and there's only one teacher or counselor and there are hundreds of students, and in order to guide or counsel the students, we need to understand them first.
Correct. Right.
Yeah,
And I also want to I mean, it's not a question, but just I mean, yeah, just reflecting on this part, that our own schools, what is not the condition, but where are we in terms of being able to provide our students with a trained counselor? And Tanishka, that was the primary reason I had started with the question that I had given to Megha ma'am, about, okay, let's just assume that we don't have professional interventions. Even like Nivedita madam did,
okay,
say it so elaborately. Like, so sometimes you have to make do with teachers who may
yeah,
not be trained as well as you guys are. So then it becomes, it's very important for us not to feel defeatist here, but maybe have some strategies in hand. And when I say strategies, I don't mean shortcuts or tricks and tips, no, but genuinely, if somebody wants to be there for a student, but I mean, for whatever reason, don't have a degree, don't have the training, but I want to make the classroom a safe space for somebody as a regular teacher, what are some strategies that one can use? Uh,
for a
or we
regular
can come
teacher.
back to you. Yeah, or we can come back to you. I'll ask the same question to Dr. Kudwa, because
Okay.
you've also been on the field for so long and you interacted with so many teachers and students, of course. So, ma'am, what do you suggest to our attendees? Like some things that to keep in mind just to make a classroom a happy space for kids who come in. Yeah, ma'am, you're on mute.
Sorry. Uh, there are
Great.
three
Yeah,
things to my mind:
sure, sure.
love, trust, and acceptance.
Mm.
The minute this happens, the children are with you. As a principal, I had an open door policy. Anytime the children could come and talk to me, I was available. Children, teachers also, anybody. I was available. I would put my pen down and say, okay, I'm with you. There was one student who was undergoing depression. I knew the parents. I knew the psychiatrist who was treating her. She would come to my office, shed copious tears and say, I don't know why I'm crying. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And the same child went on to become the first ranker in the 10th standard in that school. I gave her 1 year permission to study from home. Because what is possible in our hands, we should do. There is a sudden silence. Did I say something which I shouldn't?
No.
Okay. Now, and another thing that as principals we should practice, at least I did that. Wherever there is a sticky situation, get the counselor in there with you.
Yeah.
Because she has studied a little bit more than what you know about psychology. You don't have to know everything all the time. Get the counselor there. Take her. And good leadership always believes in taking the whole team along.
Yes.
And that is very, very critical. We have had children with the partial vision. We've had children, learning disability is, I think it's just getting more and more. And we've had children with muscular dystrophy. And we have handled all that. And when the child with the muscular dystrophy had to be put in the wheelchair or taken out and taken to the toilet, that's when the administrative and the support system comes into play.
Yeah.
You know, and I've also known a school where the principal has refused to move. There is a child who comes with crutches, walks up to the 2nd floor, and the principal is not willing to move that class down to the ground floor. What do you say? I mean, it's only when something happens to you, you realize there is no empathy, there is no sensitivity. These are some things I think we understand.
For sure.
I think I've deviated from the question that you asked. But
No. It's, I mean, of course, ma'am, you have been with us prior to this. We never even, looking for these ABC answers. I mean, questions are just a way of somehow me trying to express what I want to, understand. And the answers are always well taken. And in fact, you have said something more important than what I actually asked. My question was very, very micro. Please go ahead.
There's another thing there's another thing. And Dr. Bala will also remember that. I had said when we did the B.Ed in 1980s, there was no information available to any of us about LD. And we had a student who was highly dysgraphic. She would write something and we didn't know what she had written. And in the class, she was so bright, she would answer all the questions. And we used to wonder, why is it that this girl is not able to write? And finally, some of us got together and we decided to have an oral test for her after the written test is over. So we could grade her. And what we realized today is what we did the right thing at that time, not knowing one thing from another. So long as there is empathy, there is sensitivity and acceptance, I think things will perform.
Right. These definitely very, very important, but at the same time, having the kind of, I mean, you also mentioned it again, administrative and systemic support, as mechanical as that sounds. But because a lot of times, emotions help, and the need, the want, the aspiration to do something helps. But a very big sort of challenge or complaint that a lot of practitioners have always had, not just for this topic, but for other various topics as well, is that, okay, we want to do it, but where is the support? right? So I think support is something that's very crucial. Also, we have a comment on the chat box, and we always make it a point to read out, because to read it out to everybody who's watching. We have Shubhra Mukherjee, who has she has two comments. The first one that she has written is that students will open up to a teacher they can connect with. Sometimes going to a counselor does not come very easily.
Yes.
Another aspect one must think about, like I think right in the beginning, I was very skeptical to even say this, but I did that. What does it mean for a child to walk to the counselor's room in a school where everybody is watching, or 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 getting called out in a classroom? You've been called by the counselor. Why are there some sort of not emotion, some sort of attributes
Labeling.
attached to labeling attached? And I think time and again, as educationists, the one thing we know is that school is, it's a very dynamic place where very different power structures are there, even within students in the same classroom. So I think Shubhra ma'am's comment, or the message, really did make me think of that. Like, it doesn't come easy. So in that case, so why I'm repeating this is because in that case, we as teachers can be, can at least be slightly instrumental in, maybe, because see, as Tanishka ma'am, as Nivedita ma'am, as Megha madam said, intervention by trained professionals is important. There is no leeway in terms of that. But we as teachers, who are not the skilled people in this case, can we become the stepping stone through which the child reaches, or gets the help that he or she needs? So that is something I think we can think about. And the second thing that she has written is that I have been a teacher for the past 31 years. One of my students in an all boys school was under depression and did not interact with anybody in his class. I am happy that he could connect with me, poured his heart out, and today, after almost 10 years, he's a motivational speaker and full of confidence. That's very, very nice of you to share, ma'am, and thank you so much for sharing a personal narrative with us. So I think she's also reiterating the fact that if you are able to, so I'm combining this with Dr. Kudwa's comment. You combine these things with some love, affection, attention, and you may just help a child out. But in today's time, because we have recognized and we have the resources, we have recognized the need to have professional interventions. That is something that schools, institutions, as an organization, should focus on. And as Tanishka, very, very, pertinently said in the beginning, like, there are so many schools with no resources. And when I talk about resources, I mean the teachers who can help out. So moving towards the sort of the last segment is something I had not written down as part of my questions, but has come to me now while we were discussing it. That time and again we talk about teachers helping students out, but what about the kind of teacher? What about the kind of support that the teacher may need? Can the guidance and counseling section of the domain within the school, can they do something for teachers as well? And I'm asking that because our attendees, unfortunately, we don't have students with us, school going students with us right now, but we do have teachers. And I and it's a question to all of you, that what are some of the suggestions that the teachers listening to us can maybe take forward to their own schools and demand or request for them to make it a good space for themselves and for the students in their classroom? So Nivedita madam, can I start with you here? Yeah.
Yeah, already we are doing that. Workshops, different kind of workshop, starts from understanding the different conditions. Unless and until we are not aware of the condition, we are not in a position to understand the child. So we have already doing all this process, and one by one, whatever the issues are coming up, we are first training them to understand what kind of a challenges the children are facing. Second
Sure.
part is when the teachers, how they can reach out a child, right?
Hmm.
Requirement for a child in the primary school is totally different in comparison to middle school or senior school. So the teachers needs to be trained on those aspects also, how to reach out those issues. Already a lot of success stories are there. I'm already working with the TMS, the Millennium School Sector 41. That's the base school, and we have already done a lot of things every year. So many psychotic, neurotic, other issues, psychological issues. They are clearing their 12th class. might be sometime with the mainstream and sometime with the adapted subjects also. Might be we may drop
Sure.
the science, maths, and all those things. This year, one low vision child has cleared the school, cleared 12th class, and he has cleared JE also. So a lot of
Sure.
success stories
Sure.
are there. Yes, teachers are the ones who can do that because they are the ones who are more
Sure.
connected with the
Sure.
children. The will has to be there, the connectivity has
Sure.
to be there.
Sure. Megha, I come to you with the same question. Like anything that the teachers, I mean, the question surrounds around the fact about the mental health of the teacher, right? Because time and again we say, even the NCF suggests that the teacher has to do this, the teacher has to be the facilitator, this, that. But what about the practitioner? Like how can they enhance, or how can the counselors in the school or the organization or the administrative uh, system help teachers in this domain?
I would just like to clarify on the question first. Do you mean
Yeah.
that how can we have a support system for the teachers to
Yes.
deliver in terms of the career guidance or the counseling segment? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest that we had more of peer counseling sessions, which were held again amongst the teachers. So, say it is a grade 8, teachers, all the subject teachers, along with that, they already share a good bond with each other because they work with each other on a daily basis. So, that's the best way to give it a start. To have certain sessions held wherein we can have a little structure to it of what we want to kind of have an understanding about, and gaining that clarity in terms of it's always that each of us, I would say, we also have certain personal baggages that we carry, which we need to kind of vent out somewhere or the other. And we are in times of today where we need to feel more light so that we can actually go ahead and deliver the best of our mental capacities. And to do that, I would say peer counseling is a great segment available where it's colleagues start sharing good bond with each other. And it's important as a team, when you do a lot of team projects and group projects and you already are working on a lot of stuff together, I believe even sharing some of your anecdotes from life, which may be very motivational to the others to keep doing better and better. That's something that can really help and go a long way
Sure. Sure.
on the personal front.
Yeah. Thank you. It was lovely. Yes. Thank you. Tanishka. Yeah. Bala sir. Yes. Please go ahead. Tanishka.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me. Yeah. Yes.
See,
You are.
I just recall the first time I went for a training in guidance and counseling in 1974 in Trent College of Education, Nottingham, where it was a part of my learning. And I remember after my course, when I was exposed to do a counseling to one of the students, right? I was a very young teacher in 74, really, and this came, and she was hesitant initially because there was a problem of race and color, whatnot. And then she came and said something, and I really, faltered. Her case was, sir, I have conceived. I didn't know what to do because culturally there was a very big barrier to me, right? And my gate came to me and sat with me and handled the problem with such an ease, which I wouldn't have imagined. Because, as I said, there are barriers in our mind. There are perceptions in our mind. And when years over, when we in the board started the AEP program, education program in collaboration with Mimans and Dr. Naikpal, we had a number of programs, and I have been engaged in the kind of training the teachers. One of the most important problems is the way that we could approach is that we can take some specific case studies without any reference. And one of the problems in dealing with the counseling is that there could be several perceptions to the problems the individual has, right? And it's very important to understand the perception, because the gap in the perception between the individual and others is always the criteria for conflicts coming through.
Right.
So as she pointed out, empathy. First, you cannot go to a counseling with a preconceived mind, preconceived decision, or being judgmental. You need to be empathetic. You need to trust them. First, you need to create a bond of love so that they are able to talk to you at any level. And I mean, as she pointed out, somebody pointed out, there have been number of cases I have counseled and people have gone over that. So the first thing is the bond that you create between the counselor and the counseled, with the
Right.
care that you don't create a dependency. Because one of the problems that comes in most of the counseling is that if you are too good and too listening, the person who is being counseled creates a dependency on you, which is not good. That's a care you need to.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Tanishka, we'll come to you with the same question. I think yeah.
Yeah. Okay, can you please repeat the question?
Yeah, so what I had asked, a couple of minutes back was, so I mean, I was just operating within the premise that a lot of times we are asked to, help students out, guide them, jitna ho pa raha hai, kare. But what about our own state of mind, or what about the guidance to teachers? So, as a counselor yourself, do you have some suggestions for schools, for school leaders, as to what they can do for their teachers so that they are able to sort of fructify the aim that we are talking about today, that
Okay.
is to create a holistic guidance and counseling ecosystem within a school.
Okay, so there's this statement that first you need to help yourself in order to, help other people. Firstly, you need to learn to stay grounded, keep your
Right.
mental health in check, and then only you can provide love, affection, and care to other people. First of all, I would
Yes.
like to say that. Then only you will be able to counsel the students. If you have your own burden over your head, your
Right.
your process or the stream of thinking, it would affect other people's judgment of
Sure.
yours.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So like your preconceived notion would affect your judgment, and you won't be able to validate or give them maybe look at them respectfully, or help them in any case. So like first you need to take care of yourself, then only you can help other students. And again, I would like to add on to one thing that you said, ki how other people, how other students feel if they're called to a counselor's room or something. This is my personal experience. In our school, when the counseling started and the counselor started calling people or students, uh, every other student thought, where was he going? And the student that was being counseled felt like some kind of walk of shame that he was going through the corridors and all of that.
Of
But
course. Yeah.
the teachers and the counselor told us that it is
Yeah.
completely normal, it is completely healthy, it is completely positive that you can seek help or talk to other people. That was basically when the students got the confidence to approach the
Correct.
counselor so
Yeah.
easily that they were able to speak up that I don't feel very nice and I need to go to the counselor.
Right.
So that is the kind of respect and comfortable environment we need to create for the students. And as for the teachers, and as Dr. Kurwa said, that we need to give the staff all the awareness they need to deal with the students.
Yeah.
So like for example, when there are certain times when we teach individuals that in case of an accident or in case of some mishap happens, you need to learn how to deal with these kind of situation, and you need to how to react, call an ambulance and all of that.
Correct.
So that is the type you need to intervention. You need to learn how to deal with this kinds of situations whenever these happens, and how to make the environment or the school premises a safe and secure place to share and to be on your level.
Right. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think so important, right? Like I think she covered a lot of things that we were all trying to, I mean, talk about in different ways. That no point of having all kinds of resources or having, unless the environment in which you're in, you know, unless that is conducive, right? Otherwise, she used this one phrase, walk off shame. And that was something that was coming to my mind as well. But in today's world, again, the importance of why we are even talking about this, why schools need to do this, is because I'm going to relate it to what Bala sir said right in the beginning. The times have changed. The kids today think differently. The kids today are going through very, very different things that you and I may not have gone through. But does that mean that, we completely negate their experiences? And sure, and by this, I don't mean at all that, okay, if I may not have experienced it, I may not be the best person to sort of counsel or guide and so on and so forth. But can we, at least from our end, try not to discount or negate the experiences of students who are in our classrooms? So I think, yeah, unfortunately, it is 6 o'clock and we will have to end the episode today. But I hope that, this has been a good experience, an insightful experience for people who have joined. It certainly has been for me. And, generally towards the end, we do ask some points as to what. But I think today's episode, we stay with these ideas, we stay with these, the reflections that our panelists have shared with us. And, yes, so I hope that, starting Monday, festival after the festivals all sum up, we go to school and we try from our own end to make the classroom a good, happy space for people, and also have the courage to be the instruments through which students are able to, explore the help or seek for the help that they may need. So with this, I will end today's episode. Thank you so much to all the panelists who joined us. We would love to chat more, but we are punctual, so we will have to stop. And as I had mentioned in the emails as well, you guys are always welcome to join us back all Fridays. The topics may change, but the community is the same, and it'll always be nice to have you back. So when your schedules permit. So thank you once again for joining us. Thank you to all the attendees who joined, and good evening. We'll see